everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. Thanks for stopping by. I'm out in the torch shop, gonna make another marble today. And I did a bunch of prep work a couple days ago with some silver fuming. It's just silver fuming, making some canes. And that's what we're gonna put into the center of this marble. Pile up a whole bunch of it. Might look kind of ridiculous, but that's the plan. Dive into it. I just got my large clear rod. I'm just going to stack up a bunch of this fumed material. It's got a little string of silver down the core. And we're just going to see where this takes us. So the idea was just to kind of start off with a blank. A lot of times the blank that I start with is a cone shape. This is going to be just a blunt end. So clean up this rough cut end. And start melting this back. Just want to start off building up a pretty good sized gather, because this is going to be kind of the lens prep kind of situation. Because all this cane that I've got is going to basically build out the cone of the Vortex marble. So as I see little specks of material on the surface of the glass, I'll just pluck some of that out. So once again, today's video, we're partnered with Epicwater filters, and we've got our pitcher water filter in the refrigerator in our house. And even though we are on well water, that's pretty good quality water, it's just an extra assurance that the water we're drinking is really clean. So it's kind of a treat to have this water filter system and to be partnered with Epicwater filters. They make units that go into just a drinking, carry around container, or they make systems that go underneath the counter and have a little spout at your sink. Right now we just have a pitcher system inside put in the refrigerator. My daughter goes through quite a bit of water in her sippy cups every day. Sorry, sippy cup makes it sound like a little kid. She's not a little kid anymore. But it seems to be a good, sustainable company that's interested in recycling their filters and creating products that are built to last and provide good service. So I invite you to check out the link in the description below and see what some of their products offerings are. I think they still have some Christmas specials going on. So it's a little crazy when I start off with these builds and I look at the size of this 2-inch marble mold, which has kind of been my target size lately, and the lens part of this is going to be a good part of this size. So it's a little hard to imagine starting out with something that big. And the way these build-ups go, you definitely don't want to start out that big, because it's going to grow through the different steps that we wind up with. I was going to try and chase and peel off some glass there, but maybe I'll leave that alone for now. So I'm going to heat the front face of this. I just want to get a flat face here. I'm trying to kind of imagine the size and shape that I would start with. Something like that. Yeah, flame polished, get rid of any chill marks in that face. And then we'll hang out here for a moment to let this get stable. Okay, I've got a couple different ones to choose from. So I'm going to have to kind of splice in some videos showing the process of making these stringers, or canes if you like. So it's basically a section of tubing, fumed, with just silver on the inside. Close that down, expand that out into a ball, and then condense that down more or less the way you would doing a implosion. But there's no detail, there's nothing going on, it's just some silver fuming, and then draw that out as a cane. So I don't know, I thought I would just start out trying to spiral this on, just see what we can do. Because whatever I do adding this stuff up, I want to try and avoid trapping air. This is just going to be a whole bunch of layers. Got quite a bit of glass in these canes, quite a bit of clear glass that will help separate out these lines. So this first pass is going to be kind of the full diameter. Get this melted in. So a couple of steps here that I really haven't done before. I haven't made this type of cane exactly before. The idea of doing the work on this construction was to get this silver to incorporate itself into the glass a little bit more than usual. So now we're going to go back in and do another pass. Try and leave that center open. A little bit more open of a spiral. This is a bit of a repetitive process. Let's see, we're going to melt this in a bit. Oh, I'm going to wind up with some bubbles in here, I guess, but I'm trying to avoid getting too many bubbles. So a little reiterative process here. So again, we're kind of trying to avoid the actual center. Okay, keep going on this. Probably should have put a handle on this thing, because I could use more of this material. But it's getting a little short to hang on to. We're kind of building out this cone. I'm definitely pretty new to creating this type of cane, so got a lot of variance in how it turned out, how much clear glass was surrounding the fume. I was trying to strip out some of the clear glass. Trying to keep perspective on where the flame is and where the cane is where I'm applying. Seems like it's going really slow right here. I can't quite get the flame pointed exactly where I want it. Let's see, I'm going to turn this up a little bit. Oops. A big wiggle in the... It's okay. Okay, getting a little bit more chaos going on. Okay, give my arm a break for a second. I'm kind of cramped up. So my idea with this is hoping that there's enough clear to be able to kind of see through these little filaments of silver. So that's one effect that I wanted to achieve. A couple of bubbles in there, but not too bad. Okay, definitely enough material there I could shape into a cone at this point. But I also want to try doing some little side pieces. And for these, I'm just going to kind of pick a spot somewhere in the middle here. And just kind of build up a little whirl. Okay, well, that's kind of the idea that I had going into the center, and we're going to shape this up. Okay, I'm just going to try and start this moving towards a cone shape. When you have pattern like that and then trying to do some shaping, you want to be pretty gentle with it. Just do a little bit at a time moving that material. So some of that process there, I'm trying to move the paddle with the rolling motion so it's not smearing it. I'm trying to get some pressure moving upwards towards the wide end. And there we go. There's our swirly center. So I'm going to do a little bit of black frit. So we let that core temperature drop down a ways, and we're going to heat up just the surface. Get the surface hot enough to pick up this black frit. I'm going to come in here pretty gently. Get some more on that very end. Okay, I'll get this out of here and let that cool off. So the black frit kind of gives a background, gives that fume some contrast. It seems to like having some dark base behind it for the light to interact and really kind of show off what's going on. Alright, get that smoothed in a little bit. Now, I've got some cherry red. I've done some cherry red on the back here. I did the first couple runs tight and then break away. I have a gap. Come back and fill in that gap. A little bit more material here pulled out. Okay, keep this up. Fill in a few little spots. Alrighty, well, got this far. Let's see, let's do a little gold fume on the backing here. So it looks like next week is going to be Christmas holiday time, so won't be doing a video next week. Gonna have some family time. But we'll get back into it, hopefully, the following week. Alright, gonna get into filling in the back half. Everything's pretty calm outside today, but yesterday we had a wind event associated with this atmospheric river weather pattern that's been really kind of devastating the northwest region of the country, and we've been catching some of that. We didn't lose power yesterday, but a lot of people in our area did. About a quarter of the valley was out of power. So we're feeling pretty grateful to have kept our power going. But it certainly wasn't a day to be out in the torch shop, not with the lights flickering and the wind was steady 40 mile an hour, probably gusting to 60. I wound up kind of staying glued to the local information, what was happening. We didn't have any significant damage, but a few things got blown around. And then it's amazing how things can calm down and everything seems hunky-dory. When I was a little kid, I always was kind of fascinated by wind. It's like, where is all this air going? And why does it get so windy and then stop? And, well, where'd it go? Where'd all that air go? I don't think I fully understand it to this day. And I have my brother lives out in the Puget Sound area, and I think he's doing okay, but around him there's been significant flooding and bridges out and all kinds of damage. It looks like all those individual lines maintain their individuality. You have clear glass around them to keep the pattern open and let you see through it. So pushing back the glass on this tip. Building on some layers of clear glass here. Okay, well, let's see. Pretty close. Yeah, yesterday when it was all crazy wind, we were supposed to run up to Missoula and catch a movie, but we canceled that plan. I'm glad we did, because the roads were pretty dicey. And then there's power outages, so I'm not sure the theater even had power yesterday during the day. So I'll try it again on Saturday. Heating up this clear and letting it kind of condense and fall back. A marble cup full of marbles. I generally like to do a lot of shaping at that point, but push this around a little bit. Yeah, I thought I was doing a better job of avoiding the airlines, but maybe a few artifacts in there. One thing about Vortex marbles is little tiny things get magnified. So we got a little bit of a seam or a air trap, it's going to look sizable even if it's not. Alrighty, let's see. Housekeeping. I'll leave your piece resting horizontal for very long. You want to make sure you give it a rotate to its high side. Alright, on the back side we have got some Opaque Aqua, dark green, and Indigo Aventurine. Start out with some Opaque Aqua. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Give some grace and space for people. It's a lot going on these days. Last time we made a trip into town, definitely tell the energy is a little hopped up for some people. So we try and provide a chill zone. We try not to be very hopped up about things. There's so much to be grateful for in life. A lot of times it doesn't seem like that's really true, but there's always much to be grateful for. And I'm certainly grateful, even with crazy weather systems and stuff, that our home, our shops, our cars, it's all good. Ray was so comfy in her shop yesterday, she didn't even know the wind was blowing. I'm upstairs in the office thinking I probably shouldn't get too close to the windows. It was a little intense there a couple times. And some areas down in the valley, they had trees down and stuff, but the big pine trees are in rocky terrain around some neighbor houses, and I worry about them because they're monster trees, but they have survived a lot of crazy weather for a lot of years. But they still, even if their roots are anchored, they still can snap in two sometimes. I've seen that. It's pretty wild when you see a trunk that's a couple of feet thick snapped in two. So this Indigo Aventurine is pretty dark, not super sparkly, but I'll give it a go. I'm not sure when's the last time I used it for the backing color. Couple little bubbles there. We'll try and pop those bubbles at this stage before we go any further. Colors, when they're hot, they throw off some intense light and heat. pretty good. Alrighty, let's see how this rolls. Totsy totsy. Oops. Fudge there a little bit. Yeah. A little off my game there for a sec. Alright, tidied up a few little tears. One bubble here. Pretty good there. So, believe it or not, that's all the color and pattern marble's done now. I just need to get a lens on it, get it rounded up. Quite a ways from being done, but like I say, all the color has been put down, all the patterns have been created. Okay, heat them up, cool them down. Yeah, see, I wasn't paying attention to my rotations as it's sitting horizontal, like I told you to do. So it went off center a little bit. So you just rotate it to the high spot, let it sit there. It'll probably fall back into line. Okay. Let's get a puntee on here. Especially that first puntee, I just kind of go for the full fusion. Not messing around. Don't want a little wimpy connection there. I want it to be solid. Now, when we started out, we got a pretty good start on the lens. That initial gather really helps at this stage. We have a pretty good go at it. But the big fat flame is not always what I want. Sometimes I need the heat to be a little bit more focused. I need to build up this circumference. Angle this to get the heat going up inside the core. And we kind of focus on the feedstock junction. Okay, I'm going to come out here to our roller. And putting pressure on the left-hand side where it's the solid rod, and letting the other side run kind of soft. Bring this down, pull it out just a little bit. Let it just keep thinning out on its own and cut. Okay, start ripping. Start off on the circumference. So we're pulling off a little bit of that color on the edge, some of the frit that is kind of sticking out. Now, because of the way that I started out with a pretty good sized gather, that a good part of it was going to become the lens, part of the lens, this edge, the clear anyway, right along this edge, is not too bad because I kept that kind of clean. But this next bit is actually, I can see it's pretty contaminated. So grab a pretty good scoop in this pass. This was a zone that piled up a lot of the surface glass on the rod. Okay. Okay, that should be most of the cleanup. Get some slow rotations going here to get that clear glass to move. There's the airplane flying overhead. I don't know if that's going to show up on the recording, but everybody's wondering what that noise is. I think it was an airplane. Okay, that's the front lens part. Usually don't slide around that much, but it's good to have a drafting chair on wheels. If you're going to be sitting while you work. Some people stand up while they work. I started off making little beads and have my face up. I can see me a lot of times. I'm up pretty close to the torch. That's not necessarily a good thing, but that's the way I roll. And it's always amazing if that shape that I'm torching right now was clear glass, it would move readily. But all that colored glass and layers, it's got a lot of resistance. Kind of explore what the heat base is like on the clear side by running at really slow rotations. I still got pretty firm control on it. Which allows you to do like fast rotations like that, which really help pull that shape together. For some reason, once again, my marbles have been growing a little bit larger. They've been getting more like 2 1/4 inches. This mold's 2 1/2 inches. And when I was starting out with the initial gather of glass and trying to figure out how big of a surface I wanted to start building on, it's way smaller. It kind of intrigues me how it changes and winds up being so much bigger. So at this point, shaping is done pretty much. On the back side it's done. So I'm going to let it lose some heat. And then we're going to do a slow pass. Do a flame polish. And this kind of step, you know, you want to do it intense for a good bit. But you don't want to go too far away. It'll take a long time before you feed it to the point where you're going to mess up the shape. But depends on how big the marble is too. If it's a small marble, you want to be careful. You may have to do the flame polish in two stages, let it rest and cool down in between, so you don't affect the overall size and shape. Now, in the last bunty, we are looking for a little bit more wimpy attachment. So we want to prep our rod to be a blunt bullet nose. And this guy is still glowing pretty dang hot. That last heat cycle I got it pretty toasty. So wimpy attachments. You heat the base till it glows, you heat the rod till it glows. Touch them together. And do a little wiggle pulling apart. And quite a ways off center. Oh well. We're not doing any fancy on-center steps at this point, so it doesn't matter too much. With this we want to dig out. Make sure we don't have residue from the punchy rod, which will be a little bit different than the base clear here. And if you leave some mixed glass in there, you're going to see it. Okay, so now I got kind of a flat front. So I'm going to give this lots of heat. Angle down a little bit. Okay, now clear on the surface in places is pretty soft, so we come into this mold gently. And if you do that rotation and sort of gradually lower that front lens into the marble mold, it should fill out and round out pretty good, but you may need to do it a couple cycles. If the first one got you pretty close, you want to wait a moment, let it skin up a bit. And really gentle. Some good rotations. One thing I like about a plain marble mold that has a relatively sharp edge is I can see the contour of the glass in the mold, on the rim of that mold. So now I can see a lot of concentric banding on the very front face. And that's okay, and probably the best way is just to let heat just act like a plain polish, but we want to be pretty aggressive. Excuse me. Well, I don't know that it's got any interesting colors per se with the film, but it's got a little bit more wispy, ethereal look to it. It's not sharp lines. So you can always do a couple cycles of heating and cooling. and of course rotating. And then you can look at the reflections. Make sure everything looks smooth and free of wrinkles. And I think we're there. Gosh, thanks you guys for hanging out watching these videos. Yeah, I kind of missed the center there, but oh well. And just give it a good heat, smooth things over. I think we're there. Okie dokie. Thanks so much guys for hanging in there watching these videos. I love coming out here and chilling out. I have you guys to keep me company. Thinking about what you all think of this. Hopefully they find this interesting. So, I don't know, something different. It's not my greatest piece, I don't think, but it's always an adventure. That's the whole point of this series, it's an adventure. So we get this into the kiln. Got a party to go to tonight, so we got to be good between now and then. Hope you all are having a great time. We really wish you the very best. Blessings to you and your family and friends. Take care of yourself, take care of those around you. And we wish you the very best, and we'll see you again on our next adventure. Take care.